Let's talk priorities. So a lot of people, when they struggle with their time management, with work-life balance, with just taking better care of themselves, feeling more balanced, feeling more calm in their life, chances are there is a bleed between their priorities and their obligations. Now, your priorities are things that really are important to you, things that you value, things that get you to jump out of bed in the morning because they are of the utmost importance to you. Your obligations are things that you are legally and morally inclined to do, things that you must do for some bigger purpose or reason, like your job, like taking care of your children or your pets or your home, paying your rent. These are things that you are obligated to do. Now, the challenge I see with most people is that their obligations take the very first or the brunt of their to-do list, of their schedules. And then second, it typically is other people's priorities, then your priorities, than you. That's typically when I look at anyone's calendar and I talk to anyone who's like, I'm so stressed out, I need more time, I take a look at their calendar. And by looking at their calendar, I can quickly identify where their time is going. And 9 times out of 10, their time is going towards their obligations and other people's priorities. If this sounds like you, or it sounds like your schedule or your calendar, know that you're in good company. But also know that there is an opportunity for you to flip it, so that way you can have more balance, more joy, more ease, more peace in your day. And this was a hard lesson for me to learn as well. I had to put some hard parameters in place. I had to set some real boundaries in my day, in my schedule. And it took me some time to get there, but once I got there, I started to realize that I woke up with less anxiety in the day. I felt like I was way more productive. And I also felt like I was more present in the other spaciousness places in my calendar. So when I think about how to flip it, the first thing you want to do is get very clear on what are your priorities. What's of the utmost important to you? Once you know what your priorities are, it is up to you to make sure that you create space in your calendar for those things. Now, it doesn't matter what your priorities are because they're going to vary from person to person. That's totally fine. But what matters is that you're clear on what your priorities are and you put them into your day, into your schedule, into your calendar. So that way it becomes like an important meeting. I schedule my workouts. I schedule my lunch where there's no work during my lunch. I schedule, sometimes I schedule my nap time or like my nothing time. I will schedule in date night. I will schedule in things that I want to prioritize because it brings me to life. It makes me happy. It gives me joy. It keeps me grounded. It brings me back to who I am. And then I have my obligations. I'm very clear on what my obligations are. To my business, to my family, to my home. I'm very clear on what my obligations are, and I'm very clear on how much time do I really need to dedicate to those obligations. What I find for a lot of people when it comes to the obligations, they don't set proper boundaries around those obligations, and then what happens is it bleeds into date night, time with the kids, time with the pets, time with cleaning up the home, time with writing that book that you've always wanted to write. It bleeds into your workouts, into your self-care. And then by the end of the day, you're so exhausted that you don't even have the energy to lean into those things that you prioritize, or you're not fully present. And that starts to feel like pressure and uncomfortable. Once you're really clear on what your priorities are, your obligations are, you're clear on the time that you want to dedicate and commit to, then you want to set some boundaries. Set boundaries in your schedule. Case in point, for me, one boundary, I took notifications off my email and social media. Because I didn't want to, every time I hear a notification, if I'm working on something important or I'm with a friend and I want to be present for them, and the second that my phone notification goes off, where's my attention going to go? To my phone. And if I don't answer the notification, my mind's going to be spiraling about what is that notification, and I'm no longer present, or now I'm distracted. That's a really simple way to create some boundaries, but it's difficult because we're so used to being on our phones, reacting and responding to notifications. Another thing, putting my phone away from me when I go to bed, so that way I'm not tempted to do late night, Instagram scrolling, LinkedIn scrolling, Pinterest scrolling, and instead either read, close my eyes and just kind of process the day, get still, or just fall asleep. Because typically I'm tired when I get in bed, but I let my phone distract me and all those different things. But I also put boundaries in my calendar where I do really important work. I call it my deep work time. And in that deep work time, that is when distractions are off, phone is on do not disturb. I am focused on the number one priority for my work obligation for that day. And I do that for 2 hours, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I do that, and once I get that done, I feel so much better because now I can do all the other things that are on my schedule, on my to-do list, other obligations. But if you start thinking about scheduling your priorities and then being really clear on where your obligations lie and how much time you can commit to those, then you have a clearer picture of where else you have space in your calendar. That's where you can start to plug in other people's obligations, other commitments like helping out with a birthday party or going to a happy hour or whatever else you might want to do. At least now you are really clear. So that way you're not overbooking yourself, you're not stressing yourself out about time. Because the reality is we all have the same amount of hours in a day. And what I find for those who truly lean into a more nourished and balanced lifestyle are those who have a true understanding of what are their priorities and what are their obligations, and creating the conditions to be able to thrive with both of those in your schedule. If you are a person who seems like, I wish I could get this, figured out, well, it's totally possible, it's totally doable, and you just have to give it a shot. I will put a link below where you can get a worksheet that I created for my Nourished Life Lounge group. It's a free online community, and we did a longer 30-minute talk about this, and I shared the worksheet with them. But it's a great opportunity for you to connect and understand what's really important for you, what are your obligations, and then you get to decide how your day runs. It's a mindset shift, but it's one that can truly, truly change the way that you show up, the way that you take care of yourself, and ultimately prioritize what's most important to you.